well, you mentioned Alonso earlier, and obviously Alonso is a driver who used to drive Ferrari and left.
Knows all about the pain.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've had pain at Ferrari at all. No. But talking of Fernando, let's briefly cut, because there were a few incidents in the race that I think were worth note, and we have to kind of talk about the end of the Kemmel Straight, Hamilton and Fernando. There's been some wild words coming out of Fernando Alonso's mouth.
There's been some juicy things said, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, basically implying, what was it? He only knows how to race and start first, basically. He doesn't know how to actually, start and finish first. That's the one.
Basically.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to race in the pack. It was basically what Fernando implied.
Which isn't going to do, Hamilton-Alonso fan relations any good, because, them two fan bases, there's history there.
From day one.
Okay.
From the get-go.
From day one.
Literally day one. As soon as Lewis arrived in the paddock, disliked each other.
But what do you think of the Fernando Alonso we've got at the moment? Because obviously there's all this talk around, obviously he's gone to Aston Martin. On my Saf now has talked openly about, you can't keep your skills, your reflexes forever.
Yeah.
Yet we saw a Fernando who, delivered a fantastic result this weekend, I think, all things considered. Yeah. Great job in qualifying. Where does Fernando sit, in your opinion, relative to the rest of the field and relative to the rest of his career?
I think, obviously, when we sort of measure it to the rest of his career, it's not going to be the same, sort of right now, he's in his 40s. But
he still thinks he's in his prime.
And I don't think he's, crazy.
But is that just gas?
It is gas. It is gas a bit. Okay. But I don't think it's wildly far away. I think he's doing a great job this season. Again, the table doesn't really reflect him. He's been very unfortunate at times this season for Alpine. What I would say is I'm really enjoying a Fernando Alonso that cares even less about everybody else than he did before. And that was already quite a low amount. He's in it for himself this season. He's got his deal with Aston Martin now. Yeah. He doesn't have any affinity really to doing anything for the team with Alpine. He's getting on the radio at Hungary, berating Esteban for squeezing into the pit wall. I'm enjoying it, Per. It's good entertainment value.
Yeah.
But I think he did a great job this weekend, honestly. I know he obviously nursed a damaged car to a very good result. We touched on the incident itself. Hamilton, obviously, Lewis admitted that it was probably his fault. He turned on Fernando, and I think that was our initial reaction.
That's what it looked like.
Alonso's already on the curb. He can't disappear.
There's not much more Alonso could have done there, it was a shame, because I think it would have been interesting to see how, because Lewis has had the measure of George in these last few races, and George finished fourth, wasn't that far behind Sainz as well, was he? So I think there could have been maybe a podium on the cards potentially for Lewis, if things hadn't gone so wrong early doors, which was a shame. But also another driver we have to talk about, and we talked about this at the start of the stream, didn't we?
Yeah.
Will Daniel Ricciardo finish behind Lando Norris, given that Lando started at the back with the penalty, and Ricciardo qualify? I think he was seventh.
He was seventh on the grid. Yeah, seventh on the grid.
And of course, Lando did finish ahead. Look, we were talking about, did you just yoink? I don't know how much to. Daniel, he just wasn't good. I don't know what to say. It feels like I've said all this before, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like you're just rehashing stuff that's happened in previous Grand Prix. And we all love Daniel Ricciardo.
Of course.
He's one of the best characters on the grid. We all love him. But that race definitely epitomised his time at McLaren, I feel a bit. There was no real reason for him to end up finishing 15th. He finished behind both the Astons that he started ahead of. Finished behind his teammate, who was sort of 8 positions behind him on the grid. Obviously, he was always going to lose a couple places with Leclerc and Verstappen coming back through, but still finished behind Albon, finished behind Zhou, people like that. And he got battered about by mid-table runners. It wasn't like everyone filtering through. He just kind of moved backwards.
The numbers don't lie. But what I worry about is that, Daniel's gone through all this drama, and he's leaving the team, and we've seen drivers, Sergio Perez getting kicked out of Racing Point, Valtteri Bottas, when it was announced that he was going to be, wasn't going to be continuing on with Mercedes, he seemed to kind of pick up performances, sense of freedom maybe there. Yeah, I do worry that, because Daniel said he hasn't got anything confirmed for next year. There's nothing kind of down confirmed in writing, and there's been a lot of talk about a lot of teams, but I worry that if he doesn't pick up some good results, that teams that might have maybe considered him, even, after mid-season, might start to second guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And it's a difficult one because I do really empathise with him. I know we give him
on a human level. Of course,
we give him a bit more of we give him a bit more of a
bit more leeway.
Yeah, a bit more leeway because he's Daniel Ricciardo. But genuinely, like the way that went down with McLaren, being urged to put out a statement, being like, "Yeah, don't worry, guys, I'm going to see out the rest of my contract," and then a month later, he's out of there. Is not. It's never going to be good for his mental state. But ultimately, he does have to pick up some good performances before the end of the season because I believe if you went to Alpine, for example, you would see the old Daniel Ricciardo start to return a little bit. There's potential in there again because he's in surroundings that he's used to, people that he's used to. I think it's maybe a better just general atmosphere for him to be in. And maybe there'd be a bit more of an emphasis on him being at least not a number one driver. I think Esteban Ocon deserves equal treatment with what he's done recently in comparison to Ricciardo. But maybe I think Lando is kind of like the star boy of McLaren, come through the ranks there. It might give him a bit more of a feeling of belonging almost if he goes back there. But if he doesn't go back there, then I am fearful for him because I think he would continue maybe to free fall a little bit in a team like Williams, for example, where he's not even got a good package there.
Because I just think that Alpine is the most sensible choice.
It is for me.
For both parties, because I think that, Alpine have data. They can look back on the data of Daniel relative to Esteban in 2019 and 2020. They've got that information that they can use to make an educated guess as to where Daniel will be relative to Esteban. Because I think, Esteban and Alonso, there's not been a huge amount in it, but I do think Alonso has had the better of it. But at the same time, like Daniel was miles clear of him in 2020. I know that was Esteban's first season at the team, but I just think that, with that information, and I know it's a new generation of car, but at the end of the day, that team knows how to deliver a car to Daniel Ricciardo that he can drive quickly. The only other team that can do that is Red Bull. Like they know how to do that because they've got all the historic data on Daniel Ricciardo. So, like you say, I agree. I think that's the best that's the best opportunity out there.
Potentially.
Should we just quickly talk about Nicola?
Yeah,
because he's just had an absolute shocker.
Not again, Nicholas. Come on. Nicky boy.
Like Albon's got a point. Nicky's stone dead last, spun out, took out Bottas. I think he had another kind of incident, didn't he? I remember watching it and thinking, like, Nicky, what you do? I think the time is up.
Look as I love going as much as the next guy, okay?
But the meme has to stop.
At some point,
it's time to stop.
We've got to think about the sport over the Reddit. Do you know what I mean? Like, Nicholas, you know what? He's a decent... He's one of those drivers that, for me, got to F2 and that was like the level. Wait, don't get it twisted. To get into Formula 2, you have to be an exceptional racing driver, right?
Yeah.
And he won races there. He finished, second in the championship in
his third year?
Yep. This is another thing. By the time you're getting to a third year in Formula 2, we've just got to wrap
But
it
also,
up.
it wasn't the strongest field.
Wasn't a good field, was it?
Either.
Who did he come second to?
De Vries who won. And won by, I think it was a reasonable chunk he won by as well. I just think for Williams to, they've signed Albon a long term. I think Albon's done more than enough to prove that he's at very least a competent driver. At very least,
very much a mid, like at least a mid-take.
And potentially, again, it's hard to evaluate. Rookie of the year 2019. I like to remind people of that. Of course I do. But I just think if Williams want to be a serious team moving forward, they have to get a driver in that other seat that can, push forward and at least get close to Alex.
Yeah, push his teammate as well. Alex doesn't have any sort of real test at all.
No.
And neither did George. And
that's the thing. I think you can have a clear 1-2 driver if you're up the front. But I think when you're in the midfield or lower field, you have to have two drivers who can deliver because you have to develop this car. You have to get results. You have to pick up points when there's opportunities. And Alex has shown that car can get points.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So who do they go with, do you think?
Well, obviously, for them, there's quite a few options almost. Because they're sort of like an entry point almost to F1, I feel. Like there's a lot of drivers.
They've kind of become that, haven't they?
They have kind of, you've got the Nick De Vries, for example, who's obviously just been in Formula E. You've got people like Josh Sargent, who's obviously in their Williams Young Drivers program.
Logan Sargent. Josh Sargent.
Josh Sargent. That's the football. That's the Norwich football. In my mind, I was like, why would I have said that? Yeah, Logan Sargent. My bad. Sorry, Logan. Yeah, Josh Sargent as well. Yeah, I don't think he's in line for a seat, to be honest.
Maybe.
Who knows? Again,
Latifi's not great. So.
Yeah, Logan Sargent. he's a shout, obviously. I'd be interested. Like, obviously, there's quite a few F2 guys. I think that would be.
Yeah. Well, Felipe's leading at the moment. He's not tied down to any driver academy.
Yeah. Like a Jack Doohan or something like that. But there's options out there. Daniel Ricciardo, of course, as well. He's currently without a seat, so. They've got a lot of options that would be better than Latifi. Again, Nick, I'm so sorry, but like, please, man.
Yeah, I feel like for Williams, I think as long as Logan gets enough super license points, he just needs to finish P5. He's P3 at the minute in F2.
Yeah.
If he gets those points, then I think that seat's his. But I think Williams are in no rush, really. I guess they can just evaluate later in the year.
Yeah.
I think. Well, they're not going to throw the money at Ricciardo. Ricciardo needs to be prepared to take a huge pay cut, I think, if he wants to stay in the sport.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look, he got the bag from Renault. He stole the bag from McLaren.
Yeah, he got the bag from McLaren.
I think that if he wants to stay in the sport and recover some of this, because 2020 wasn't that long ago, I think Williams... It depends, because there have been rumours about Gasly. Autosport have been talking about Gasly to Alpine as well. So I do worry that door might close to Daniel. I'm not going to lie. But
yeah, because I mean, goes without saying, AlphaTauri is not an option for young Daniel. He's not that young anymore. He's not that young anymore. Yeah. So obviously that's then a door that completely closes. Because AlphaTauri will either go in house or go for someone like Colton Herta.
That's the point of that team, yeah.
So it would be it would be struggle season for him then.
Yeah,
but
big struggle.
To be honest, I would be interested to see someone like a Nick De Vries in a Williams seat.
I think he deserves an opportunity.
For what he's
given
done
he won F2, won FE as well.
Yeah,
I think he would merit an opportunity, but I'd be interested to see. Yeah, if Sargent smashes F2, it's got to be easy him.
Yeah. I've really not been keeping up with the F2 standings, which is pretty poor for myself. But yeah, Drogovic obviously lead. Who's second?
It is still Taya Porcher, I believe, but sense. He had a DNF this weekend because his car blew up. Which
nice,
is
good stuff.
Classic Mechachrome.
Very, very classic Formula 2 stuff.
That's always the way.
I'd say Teo Porcher's got time, man. He's still like 12.
Yeah. Like literally, he just turned 19. He's like
that's different.
Almost 3 years younger than Felipe Drogovic, which is pretty.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought Drogovic was like old.
Drogovic is like 21, almost 22.
Old 20. He's 20 old, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm 30 in January, so I'm in no position to judge.